Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, a congregation that welcomes you and extends a heartfelt and inclusive invitation to join us in meaningful worship and in service to the world. I'm Scott Cooper, Assistant Minister of Congregational Life, and I'd like to thank Reverend Dan King and Carol Burris for so admirably leading worship while I was away. We greet all those who join us this morning, those in our sanctuary, all of our many online viewers, así como el creciente número de participantes bilingües que nos acompañan desde sus hogares. I'm really excited to be able to welcome to our pulpit the Reverend Claudia Jimenez, who is Minister of Faith Development at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Asheville, where she has served since 2018. Prior to her ordination, Reverend Jimenez served as Director of Religious Education at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Vero Beach, Florida. She's a certified religious educator through the Liberal Religious Educators Association and is a trained Our Whole Lives, which you may know as OWL, facilitator and a certified sexuality educator. She is married and has 2 adult daughters. So welcome to Claudia. Due to an uptick in cases, we are again requiring the wearing of masks while we're inside the building. And of course, we hope it will only be for a brief time, but we continue to err on the side of caution. So please join Dr. Rock for our first hymn.
Good morning. I invite you to take your gray hymnal and turn to number 361. Then rise in body or spirit and join me in singing.
Welcome to this place of kinship and possibility, to this place where the power of imagination is used to remake the world and create a beloved community that has yet to exist. Welcome to this place of narrative and tradition, to this place where the power of imagination is used to release the truth within us, and where we know that some stories that are true never happened. Welcome to this place of mind, body, and spirit, to this place where the power of imagination is used to enhance logic and propel the transcendent. Welcome to this place where love and imagination are boundless. Come, let us worship together.
Celebremos compartiendo nuestras vidas, encendiendo esta luz. Okay, this morning we're going to do something a little bit different. And I am going to ask you to choose a part. You'll understand as we go along. Choose a part, and if you want to harmonize, if you are a good singer, you can harmonize when you're ready. And so just kind of go along with me as we begin this hymn. Between our divisions, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all our voices and all our visions, we could make such harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all our voices and all our visions, we could make such harmony. Between our divisions, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all our voices and all our visions, we could make such harmony.
Please join me in a spirit of reflection, a time that some call meditation and others name prayer. Breathe with me the breath of life. Breathe in for loving, for acceptance, and with a sense of calm. Breathe out the sorrow, the division, and the stress. Inhale as we share this interwoven, intricate web of affinity. Exhale as we feel one another's presence. Breathe with me as we gather to do the holy work of kinship and support. Open your mind, open your heart. God of many names and mystery beyond all our naming, creator beyond the limits of our imagination, yet capable of imagining everything that is not, or might be. Grant us the imagination to envision how others experience the world, to understand, to empathize, to consider how their reality and ours are quite different, all while we are part of the same web of existence. May we be open to understanding their feelings, their worldview, our differences, our commonalities, and may those insights lead us to act accordingly. Grant us the imagination to not be so restrained that our hopes may be realized within only a single generation. May we be granted an imagination expansive enough to envision a world too kind, too accepting, too loving to be attained in a single lifetime. May we be granted the love and patience to work with aspiration and without discouragement toward that world, to fill our days with striving toward that goal, toward a world that may not come into fruition for generations to come. We pray in the names of all those known and unknown, present and absent, remembered and forgotten. We pray in the names of all helpers of humankind. Amen. We pause now together to lift up that which sits heavy and light on our hearts. Georgette Dredge is recuperating nicely at home after surgery, and she appreciates phone calls. Gail Wilkins, a member since 2003, passed away on Wednesday, July 20th. Gail was active in our church and helped plan UU participation in the Houston Pride Parade. There will be a memorial service planned in the coming months. Richard Brostad, a member of our church for 24 years, died Monday. The date of the memorial service is still pending. Larry Burnett, longtime member and friend of both First Church and Bay Area, died in February in Washington State. An online memorial was held on Thursday. Carol Gallanty, sister of member Diane Stotz, continues to undergo significant health challenges. Please keep them all in your prayers. We hold in our hearts those experiencing devastating weather, including those in eastern Kentucky. We mourn with those who have lost their homes and the families of those who have lost their lives. And we continue to mourn and hold in our hearts those dealing with the results of violence from around our city to around the world. May we not only learn peace and learn love, may we practice them in our lives. I invite you now to say the name or bring to mind those you wish to be held by the loving embrace of this religious community. They are part of the great cloud of witness and memory, and we will, even if we do not know their names, hold them in our hearts. In this great cloud of witness and memory, amid this beloved community, we hear these names and hold them in our hearts. Let us remember the suffering and joy amid and among our community that we do not know. We pause in awe and wonder of the beauty, diversity, and mystery that is life. In the spirit of love, in the spirit of hope, and in the spirit of compassion, I invite each of you to enter into a time of silent prayer, meditation, or reflection.
Each week, our morning offering is shared with an organization that shares our Unitarian Universalist values and through which we may live out our principles in the world. This week, that organization is our own UUSC. The UUSC, the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, is a nonprofit, non-sectarian organization advancing human rights together with an international community of grassroots partners and advocates. UUSC's Emergency Response Fund provides vital assistance to people impacted by natural or human-made disasters, yet whose access to aid is most limited. Currently, UUSC is using resources from the Emergency Response Fund to support people who are fleeing the violence in the Ukraine and due to Russia's large-scale invasion. In the few weeks before, you may have seen that blonde four-year-old beautiful girl that was killed right in front of her grandmother and her family. Her funeral followed. Also this week, Mrs. Zelensky, the wife of President Zelensky, made an appearance on TV asking everybody in the world, and especially the United States, for our assistance. It is the civilians that are taking the brunt of this war. It is they who are losing their homes, their businesses, their places of worship, every place, everything that they ever held dear. Flee their country or flee their city with nothing. Those in our sanctuary will find the instructions to test giving in the order of service, and those watching the live stream will see the instructions on your screen. Our regular Sunday morning offering collection invites us to weave a tapestry of love and action. We ask you give generously. An offering will now gratefully be received.
To the offering which is found in your order of service. To the work of this church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings.
Life as jazz. When you hit a wrong note, improvise. This is by Jake Fulton, written in March 2016 when he was 17 and a senior at Manchester High School. When learning to play alto saxophone as a concert band musician, I was taught mistakes should be minimized on stage and anything less than a perfect performance is considered a failure. I was always told practice until I couldn't play it wrong. Imperfections were seriously frowned upon and even penalized. On the flip side of the coin, when I play in the school jazz band, I find mistakes are now not minded in the least if they happen in the right context. Wrong notes are welcome as long as we can resolve them into the harmony that was given. In fact, the whole purpose of the style of jazz known as bebop is to do exactly that with improvisation. The famous jazz musician Miles Davis was known for and made a career of wrong notes. He was quoted as saying, "Do not fear mistakes, there are none." As a person who makes mistakes, I found that what makes the difference in recovering is the way that you compose yourself and get out of trouble. Mistakes are a natural part of life, but many students feel the pressure to live up to the expectations that were placed upon them from birth to not make mistakes. Obviously, there are exceptions, but the fear of failure is in the back of everybody's mind. What is not in the back of everybody's mind is that some mistakes can prevent failure. There is always risk in trying something new and different while playing, but if it does pay off, the reward is great. If I always tried to stay safe, playing the chords, scales, and notes I know I can always get to, my playing would never improve. In jazz, taking risks is everything, and more often than one would think, it pays off. This seems true for most anybody and anything. Chefs who don't experiment with their cooking may never find that special flavor they are seeking. An athlete who does not push himself at the gym will not get as strong as he could be. People are only as successful as their work ethic and willingness to take risks. A young age is the perfect time to overcome your fear of trying new things or journeying into the unknown. These adventures could amount to nothing, or they could lead to a lifetime hobby, pastime, or career. So far in my life, my motto has been to jump into the unknown 100% and to not let anybody or anything hold that passion back. So far, this theory has worked. This fall, I will be attending Western Connecticut State University, my #1 choice college, where I plan to study music education. The path to my getting into college to study music was not always so clear. When I was in middle school, I was cut from the jazz band. Nevertheless, I kept playing and learning. So, to anybody afraid of messing up, I say that mistakes are just a critical step to success.
I invite you to open your teal hymnals and turn to number 1024. Please rise and join me in body or spirit as we sing. You gotta do when the Spirit says to. You gotta do when the Spirit says to. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do. Oh Lord, you gotta do when the Spirit says do. Spirit says do. Spirit says do. Spirit says do.
The Spirit with that song. Buenos dias, good morning. I'm Claudia Jimenez. I bring greetings from the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Asheville in North Carolina. And this morning, esta mañana, I invite you to consider if improv could be a spiritual practice. So, I'll begin with my own experience with improv, and that was in my very first class in seminary. That class was called Creative Encounters, Ministry as Improv. Now you might be thinking, en serio, really? You mean they make all that stuff up? And well, as with anything in life, there are no scripts, and in many ways, we do make it up as we go along. We are always, siempre, improvising to life as it reveals itself to us. Like the jazz musician in our reading, our perception of the world emerges from the interaction between our experience, our expectations, and the unpredictable events of the day, the quotidian stuff of life, lo cotidiano. Now, the idea of ministry makes sense to me. Ministers must be prepared for anything, cualquier cosa, prayers, invocations, pastoral conversations, and even a few words from the minister. So that's why when I moved to Asheville as part of my professional development, I took improv classes. It was not only a way of meeting people in my new community, but it was a way of preparing to serve my new congregation. And as I've gotten older, I've been challenging myself to move beyond my comfort zone. And let me tell you, choosing improv was not easy. I tend to be a very organized planner with a color-coded agenda. Any Enneagram 1s out there? Because if you're an Enneagram 1, you know that spontaneity and improvisation are, they're difficult. But I can report that I did it. I survived 8 weeks of improv training with total strangers. Now, in terms of this sermon, which I assure you is not improvised, I am inspired by Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said of preachers that they deal out to the people their life passed through the fire of thought. So I love that image of our lives passing through the fire of thought, el fuego del pensamiento. But first, How many of you are familiar with improvisational theater? I see quite a few hands up. So you may have experienced Tina Fey or Amy Poehler or Stephen Colbert, but improv doesn't always have to be funny. It is basically theater without a script in which the players, as the actors are called in improv, create a scene in the moment based on a word or phrase provided by the audience. It is spontaneous, collaborative, creative. And improv players prepare by playing games to involve their voices, their bodies, they mime, they chant, they act things out, they do short skits. So one of my favorite games in improv was when we got to play catch. And so this is what we would do. That's okay. Oh. All right, y'all, somebody send it back to me. Oh, I missed two. Thank you. So you get the idea. Augusto Boal, a Brazilian theater practitioner, described games as followed. He said, they are warm-ups to shed inhibitions and establish a form of theatrical communion. And I think the games we played accomplished that. I mean, you can imagine a group of people that don't know each other trying to do improv. It can be awkward, and I know that I was mortified, and I probably wasn't the only one. But you know, we learned to play together, we learned to trust each other, and above all, we laughed a lot together. And I think as adults especially, we lose sometimes that relaxation around play and laughter. So improv really changed my life, and not just in supporting my work in ministry. One of the foundational principles of improv that informs my life is the concept of yes and. How many of you are familiar with yes and? So you know what I'm talking about, and to the point that I tattooed it on my arm as a reminder when I graduated from seminary. And I'm one of those people who never thought she would get a tattoo. But I love my tattoo, and it is a good reminder. So, for example, here's what yes and is very basically about. So you're with your partner in an act, and your partner says, look, what a beautiful green sky. And you respond, cool, it matches my glittering green nail polish. Notice how that's different from, look, what a beautiful green sky, but it's blue. That shuts down the conversation. And in improv, you accept the idea. You don't necessarily have to agree with them. And you choose your response in a way that keeps the scene moving. And that's one of the important things in improv. It's about keeping that scene moving. And one of the ways that it changed my life was that when I was in seminary, I was in the last year of a 4-year term as an elected school board member where I lived in Vero Beach, Florida. And I had a very difficult relationship with my fellow board members because they were very intransigent and very conservative around some of the very important issues that were coming up before us. So as a result, I entered board meetings defensively, prepared with lots of information and arguments for my positions. And at the time, I was what I would call a but person, because every time something was said, I would respond with but, and then give all my data and everything else. But after improv, after those first few sessions, I changed my strategy. I still went in well prepared, and I was still defensive, and if I'm honest, nervous. What changed was that when they brought up an item that I wanted to move in a different direction, instead of responding with my usual but, I would say, yes, I hear what you said, and have you considered, and then I would share all my arguments and all of my information. And I kid you not, that simple modulation and change in attitude really made a difference on that board. We had richer conversations. I wasn't always feeling so defensive and fearful, and sometimes, believe it or not, they even listened and voted in ways that I had hoped that they would vote. So that really made a difference for me. Now, we're all works in progress, and I'm all about yes and, but every once in a while that but creeps up. And that's okay, because we're all works in progress. And so some other ways that this strategy helps me is around all of this Zooming and YouTubing that we do, that we're all kind of, maybe not all of us, but a good number of us, we're just exhausted. We want to be together, we want to be in person, but this virus is becoming endemic, and there are cases rising, so we have to be flexible. And so, yeah, I'm tired. Yes, I'm tired of Zoom. I'm tired of YouTube. And I know that it is a way that I can be connected to community. And in my own family, for the last 2 years, we Zoom every Sunday at 8 o'clock. It's an ongoing Zoom. We never stayed in touch that much before COVID. And even when people can't come, because now everybody's going out to dinner and doing things, we have a text stream and people say, I can't Zoom, I'm going out to dinner, or I can't Zoom, I'm working. And we're still in touch. So there's a little silver lining there, despite the exhaustion of all of that online that we are doing. Another way in which yes and is helpful to me and is because I struggle with the news. I just get overwhelmed, it's too much. And so my approach has been, yes, we lack moral, compassionate leadership by some of our elected officials that are making choices around reproductive health, voting rights, and the climate crisis that are toxic. That's real, that angers us, that frustrates us. And there are caring, committed people all over this country, in all communities and beyond our country, that are working to counteract the negative impacts of misguided, oppressive policies. So that and is really soul-saving for me, because I know that collectively there is a lot of work happening to make that change in the world and build that beloved community that we want to see. Another takeaway from improv is the importance of being in the moment, of being here and being now. Because if we're not paying attention to our partner in improv, their body language, their voice, what they're saying, it's really hard for us to respond with authenticity. And also, when you have those moments when your partner says something totally off the wall, because you are working on focusing and paying attention, you're silent and you can give yourself time to respond in a non-reactive, appropriate way. So I find that to be really helpful. And I wish I had taken improv when we were raising our daughters, because pausing before responding and being creative in my responses, two things I didn't necessarily do, would have really changed our relationships in those moments of complexity of improvised parenting. And I think my partner, who's a jazz pianist, understood that approach much better than I, because he knew how to respond with like levity and humor. And so I was learning from him as we were parenting our girls. Ultimately, I think that good improv is about nuestras relaciones, about our relationships with each other. And isn't that the same importance, the importance of relationship that matters in everything that we do at work, at home, at church, in the supermarket, driving our car? It's all about being present. It's all about remembering that we have this shared humanity even when we upset each other. And it's about community building like we do in this religious community. And when we focus too much on the I, it interferes with trust building. And in improv, that is very harmful, because the fellow players know you're not in it for them, but you're in it for yourself because you want to be the funny one. And so you have to learn to let go of the I and focus on the we. And how often do we mistakenly think that even in religious community, it's about me, about what I want, what I'm comfortable with, what I need. If we are to create the beloved community that we aspire to co-create with others, because that's where it starts, what are we willing to do to be welcoming to all? And that's an important answer if we want to create a diverse community of spiritual seekers in a world that desperately needs to go beyond consumerism, beyond capitalism, beyond selfishness, and really do what needs to be done, and sometimes make some sacrifices and be uncomfortable so that all can flourish and thrive. So that's a lot to think about. And a final takeaway, as we heard a little bit in our story, is that it's okay to fail. Really, it is. Not all the ands are successful. When we improvise, we are taking a risk. I took a risk sending that ball out into the congregation, not knowing what was going to happen, and you all did the right thing. You know, it was good to take that risk and be affirmed in knowing that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and we would have figured it out. So in improv, when missteps occur, each actor does their best to make the others look good and move the action forward. The attitude of making one's scene partner look good is an attitude that honestly we can use in our everyday lives. Because if we can recognize that we will make mistakes and you will make mistakes, we want grace and compassion when we do that, and we should offer that to others. So failure is part of that learning, as our reading shared this morning. So I'm going to invite you to participate in one of my favorite short exercises from improv, and that was basically, we would get in a circle and we would give each other space, and we would raise our hands and say, "I failed!" and then just put our hands down. So as you are willing or able, I invite you to rise, and at the count of 3, in your loudest voice, shout, "I failed." 1, 2, 3. I failed! Whew. How did that feel? You may be seated. Good job. So failure means that you acted and that you did something and that you took the risk. So I will leave you with a final story, and I think by now you guess I love jazz, and so this is a story that was in Atlantic magazine about Wynton Marsalis. And he was playing a ballad, I Don't Stand a Ghost of a Chance Without You, at a club. And the man was on fire. He was playing, he was improvising. The song reached its final phrase, its climax, and somebody's cell phone rang. And so what happened was that people, he was in a nightclub, so people started talking, going back to their drinks, and the moment was lost. That mesmerized audience kind of just didn't know what to do with themselves. And so the author of this story in the Atlantic wrote the following after that happened. He said, Marsalis paused for a beat, motionless, and his eyebrows arched. The cell phone offender scooted into the hall as the chatter in the room grew louder. Still frozen at the microphone, Marsalis replayed the silly cell phone melody, note for note. Then he repeated it and began improvising on the tune. The audience slowly came back to him. In a few minutes, he resolved the improvisation and ended up exactly where he left off. The ovation was tremendous. End quote. What an improviser! He embraced the challenge and with grace turned to possibility. You can imagine other ways that scenario could have gone. So this coming week, I invite you to consider ways to use yes and thinking, to consider embracing discomfort because it can lead to transformation, to turn toward possibility, and to be more in the moment. Because in the words of Reverend Marianne McKibben Dana, who is also fond of improv, she writes, life is constantly handing us stuff. Gifts, sometimes, tragedies, too often, opportunities, all the time. Opportunities to be the change that we want to see in the world. Opportunities to respond to hate with love. And opportunities not to let kindness have the last word. May you take advantage of those oportunidades, of those opportunities. May it be so. Que así sea. Thank you.
Invite you not to open your hymnals, but I am going to invite you to repeat after me. I thirst for you. Tengo sed de ti. Tengo sed de ti. I thirst for you, fountain of love. I thirst for you. Your love is freedom. Please rise and join me. It's going to be a little bit different, so improvise with me. Repeat after me. Tengo sed de ti. Tengo sed de ti. Tengo sed de ti. Tengo sed de ti. Tengo sed de ti.
I invite you now to join me with the words in your orders of service for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
You are blessed with such awesome musicians, my goodness. I have words of benediction for you in the form of a Franciscan blessing that is sometimes said to be the improviser's blessing. And it goes as follows. May God bless you with a restless discomfort about easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you may seek truth boldly and love deeply within your heart. May God bless you with holy anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people, so that you may tirelessly work for justice, freedom, and peace among all people. May God bless you with the gift of tears to shed for those who suffer from pain, rejection, starvation, or the loss of what they treasure, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and transform their pain to joy. May God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you really can make a difference in this world, so that you are able, with God's grace, to do what others claim cannot be done. We can do this together, beloveds. We can improvise, we can play, we can laugh, we can be angry, and we can witness. Go forth this week and be the change you would like to see in the world. Amen.
Thank you so much for watching our service today. We're glad you're part of our online community, where we welcome people who are diverse in faith, ethnicity, history, as well as gender identity and sexual orientation. There are many different ways you can get involved in our community. One you can do right now is by clicking like below or subscribing to our channel. If you're interested in joining our congregation, please email us at membership@firstuuhouston.org. Thanks so much for joining us.